Thank you so very much. Good morning. My name is Vipul Shah. I'm Senior Director of Product Management here at VMware, and very excited to host this and talk about our products and the vision. So I was driving my car today morning, Tesla, and I was really thinking, is it more of a software or is it more of just a regular car? I think of it as a software device. And so, increasingly I've noticed over last few years, everything is becoming software. And mostly, where does all this software run? I mean, obviously, it's got to be running on a cloud somewhere, right? And if it is not, it should be running on a cloud. So we talk to a lot of customers. In my role, I talk to what we call as global accounts, all the major Fortune 100, 500 companies out there, smaller companies as well, very innovative companies. And, kind of the things that they're trying to do, increasingly, everything they're trying to run is on a cloud. And so what are some of their expectations? What are some of the use cases? And when I think of that, I mean, essentially, well, some of these expectations are very well known. The very important fact that the software that runs on a cloud needs to be scalable. The software needs to be scalable. The cloud needs to be scalable, obviously, along with it. But not only that, developers expect a rich set of services. So whichever cloud it is that they're running on, they really want to make sure that they have the right services available to them so that what they can do is focus on developing their application code and utilizing these services. Their applications need to be available through a self-service kind of a marketplace, if you will. They just want to go to a catalog or some marketplace, they want to start consuming things. So the self-service aspect is a very, very critical aspect to them, right? And in addition to all of this, of course, whatever it is they deploy needs to be optimized, or the software needs to have the ability to optimize itself. So, and this could take various forms. I mean, your traditional forms of looking at logs, looking at metrics, which is perfectly fine. But in addition, people are looking at machine learning as an additional way to really optimize or have software optimize itself, right? And then whatever gets deployed needs to be resilient. It also needs to be secure. And security is one of those things that I have been hearing a lot lately. Everything has to be super secure. Are we compliant for FedRAMP? Or how can we enable our customers to become compliant for a particular reason, whatever that particular compliant need may be? And many a times, they are expecting the cloud to really provide mechanisms for them to be compliant. Are you able to look at every piece of the log? What are the different levels of tracing? How deep can we go? Can we capture everything in a central way? Can we mine this information? Should there be some kind of an attack or whatever? So these are the expectations from the cloud. And the thing I'm trying to say is that with these kind of expectations, each cloud is sort of complex, right? On the private cloud side, the word private cloud means you are actually managing the cloud yourself. You are the operator of the cloud itself. And then you also have consumers of the cloud. And so the way you are operating your cloud means you have that additional complexity that you're managing. And how can you simplify that? How can cloud operation itself be a much simpler work as opposed to something that is very complex? So there is that. Also, public clouds have their own levels of complexity. Yes, it is very easy to consume things on a public cloud, no doubt about it. But then at the same time, I have customers who talk about cost visibility. They really don't know how much it is they're consuming. A lot of times they get surprised by the bills. They also talk about, they don't have visibility is one of the things they tell us about public clouds, meaning people just use a lot of things and then they get to react to things later on. So visibility or governance or policies, these are the terms they use. Guardrails, how can I kind of ensure things are being deployed correctly? Is my data exposed out there? Can someone else look at it, or can someone create some kind of an attack surface there? So those are the things on the public cloud side. And the thing is, clouds have their own level of complexity. And so how do we harmonize all these things? The vision for our business unit is really to create an experience that makes that hides the complexity for each of the clouds, so that you can, or our customers can go about developing their own applications without really having to worry a lot about different complexities of the cloud, right? And this is a very core tenet for us because the goal here is not to create some kind of a lowest common denominator or anything of that sort. I mean, that would defeat the whole purpose of consuming clouds. Each cloud has its own unique value proposition. Each cloud has its own richness, which we want to show completely. Each of our customers should be able to utilize all those services, and really kind of enjoy the platform that clouds provide, whether it is private or a public cloud. But we should be able to do it in such a way where a lot of the complexity can be hidden or minimized. So how do we go about achieving that? So the first thing we'll really talk about, we'll start from a hybrid cloud model. A hybrid cloud is essentially any kind of a cloud that is using VMware's software-defined data center stack, right? And the software-defined data center stack can be, it can be available in multiple form factors. You could be deploying it on premises in your data center, and so you're managing it, you're deploying it, and you're consuming it as well, right? So that is your typical traditional way of deploying and consuming, or you could be using some other mechanism where the software can be owned by you but operated by some third party or some other operator, right? So there are different models that are available. It could, in future, it could also be something that is managed by VMware, so that's a model available as well. But the point is, it's all software-defined data center at the end of the day. And the very first set of use cases our customers expect is what we call as self-driving operations, meaning how can you operationalize your cloud, right? Without operationalizing your cloud properly, there is no cloud for you to consume to begin with, okay? So you want to make sure that all of the software-defined data center configurations are in place, that they are configured correctly. You are able to deploy your applications as per your policies. If your policies say that your applications need to go to a certain cluster or they need to be balanced in a particular way, those things should happen very naturally. You want to optimize your applications, you want to optimize capacity. So those are various aspects of a self-driving operational cloud. And so that is the first and foremost use case that our customers look at when they want to operationalize a cloud. Now, once you're at that point, the next thing you would like to do is what we call as programmable provisioning. This is where the cloud is sort of operationally ready for your consumers to consume or for you to consume. And what you're trying to do is create building blocks that are repeatable. Because in cloud, you are going to consume things in bulk. There is no ones and twos, hopefully things are being consumed in bulk. And what that means is everything needs to be repeatable. You need to have a very well-known way by which you can identify what you provisioned, what changes you're making, and how you go about making those changes to your cloud deployments. So that is fundamentally what we call as programmable provisioning. Everything here has to be done through API. That goes without saying. And then APIs can be consumed in a variety of ways. So that forms the next layer. And once you have these two layers, essentially what you're saying is, I know how to deploy workloads to the cloud. I know how to operate the cloud. And now I'm really ready for my applications. And there you want to really measure the performance of your application. This is not about the cloud. Now it is about the application. And this could be the latency of your application, or you could be measuring the availability of your application, the scaling of your application. And your application could be a traditional application, or it could be a very modern, containerized, microservices-based application running in some kind of Kubernetes form factor, right? So it could be any of the above, right? So all of these are very fundamental, very important tenets for anyone to consume cloud properly. Now, what we have done at VMware is, of course, we are VMware, so everything that we build absolutely will support hybrid cloud, which is the VMware software-defined data center. But these layers are not just about that one cloud. These layers extend themselves to additional clouds as well. So another one it would automatically extend to is the VMware Cloud on Amazon, VMC, or the VMware Cloud recently has been extended on Azure as well through our partners. So essentially, any kind of public cloud infrastructure or any infrastructure on which there is a software-defined data center, even though that may not be managed by you, in this case, it's managed by VMware, or it could be managed by one of the VMware's VCPP partners, right? So it could be any service provider who's managing software-defined data center for you. It doesn't matter. It's the same software at the end of the day. And these layers, the self-driving operations, the programmable provisioning, the application operations, all of these layers would extend naturally to that particular form factor as well. Right, so from your standpoint or from customer standpoint, there's really no change. It's just additional endpoints that the cloud providers that you're connecting to its software-defined data center at the end of the day. However, that's not good enough. Majority of the customers, of my customers, of VMware's customers, are multi-cloud customers. Either they are already on a multi-cloud journey, they're using public clouds along with hybrid cloud, very naturally. They have applications that span these clouds, or they have applications that are in one cloud or the other. Or there are customers who are very actively evaluating public clouds. In either case, they are on a multi-cloud journey, right? So everything that we do has to be multi-cloud in the DNA itself, in the product itself. A multi-cloud or public cloud cannot be an afterthought. It cannot be an add-on. It has to be something that one needs to think of from the very beginning. So the same three layers would also extend to public clouds. And there are three very important public clouds that we cater to. First and foremost is AWS, Amazon Web Services. Microsoft Azure is the next, and also Google Cloud Platform is the another one, right? And in addition to these, what we have also done for each of these layers is we are building out software development kits, SDKs, so that any additional cloud can be easily integrated into the whole stack. For example, we are working with Ali Cloud, the vendor of Ali Cloud in China, to build out integrations with that, right? And it could be any cloud. It doesn't matter what cloud it is. We are working on SDK that we basically use to plug any kind of a cloud provider into the whole stack, right? So this is the kind of the most important part of our vision. And so let's drill much further into that. So let's talk about how each of the stack kind of lays out and what are the components of the stack. So at the very bottom is cloud infrastructure, whether it is software-defined data center in various form factors, or whether it is public clouds. In either case, you have a cloud infrastructure. The first set of use cases tend to start with infrastructure monitoring and troubleshooting, especially on a hybrid cloud environment or a private cloud environment that is like bread and butter. You need to immediately make sure everything is running fine. And if something is not running fine, you are prepared to recover from your failures, infrastructure failures, as quickly as possible, right? So that is your most fundamental use case. But then that's not good enough. The moment you start deploying your workloads, you want to make sure the workload gets deployed in the right location. And the right location could be, you may have compliance needs on your data stores. You may have compliance needs on the networks or on the compute clusters where things need to go or need to be placed. So you need to make sure that they are landing in the right location with the right configuration. And whenever they land there, they are performance optimized. So what that means is, after a while, when you're monitoring your application, you may realize it is oversized, undersized, meaning you want to scale it up or down vertically, or you might want to scale horizontally, adding more nodes or shrinking a few of the nodes. And that's critical because it matters to the health of your application. At the same time, you want to conserve costs. You don't want things sitting just idle. And as you continue to do that, there are a few other things that you would want to do. A lot of our customers really care about security, and the security can be at the periphery, or it can be really around the microsegmentation boundaries. I mean, I always think of honeycomb as a very good analogy to this, right? Without that, I mean, you can have security at the perimeter, which is your traditional way of doing security. But then once a vulnerability creeps in, it can make its way anywhere to any of the applications. So what we really ask our customers to do, or the customers prefer that they do, is they look for traffic patterns between their applications, between virtual machines, or between different components of their applications. And then they figure out where to put the right level of microsegmentation, security policies, or firewall rules, so that a vulnerability doesn't kind of make it there. So that's where security and network visibility is very critical. Underlying all of this is log management. It's not just about monitoring or troubleshooting through metrics. Logs play a very, very critical role in really giving the full picture as to what's going on. And cost management, whatever you're deploying, you want to know the cost analysis, how much is it costing. That's where you realize whether you're overpaying for something because you're wasting resources or not. And then compliance. I mean, at the end of the day, all of these things can feed into various compliance policies or help you gain better insight into the compliance needs, right? So all of these are part of the self-service operations. As our customers tend to use one or more of these use cases, they start, they're ready to consume things in a programmable way. And the fundamental tenet of programmable provisioning is infrastructure as code. Even though this term says infrastructure as code, the fundamental principles apply to the whole stack, all the way from infrastructure to the middle tier to the application stack, everything, right? I mean, at the end of the day, what you're saying is there is something that needs to be managed. Infrastructure has API, applications have API, everything has API. I need to manage, or I need to provision things in a very certain way. You have a topology in mind, you have an end state in mind. The end state can be declared in a very simple format. It could be a YAML format or some template of some kind that is human readable, that can be easily understood, that can be saved into source control system, that can be versioned. All of those goodness can be encompassed into what we call as infrastructure as code. And those are the building blocks. Those are the building blocks for your infrastructure. Those are the building blocks for your application stack. And that's how you would repeatably kind of deploy the entire stack across the clouds. And so along with that is the notion of service broker. So yeah, thank you. So service broker is where you have various services, and you're trying to expose those services for other applications to consume, or vice versa, right? And so you need to enable that brokerage as a very fundamental construct, so that you're not just an island. You're basically an ecosystem. You're talking to an ecosystem, etc. Another important use case there is the self-service. How can I expose something so that I can consume later on? You want to expose curated goods onto a marketplace or a catalog, and then you want to consume those goods from the catalog. And so the service catalog, along with the notion of governance, is very critical. And the word governance, conjures up images of, oh my God, how big a governance, can this be? Well, it doesn't need to be. It could be, it's like a knob. It can be something very simple. I need to provision things properly, or it may be something that can be very complicated. You may need approvals. You may need security policies or some other things. So governance is a spectrum, and you can span the entire spectrum. And it applies at every layer of the stack. And then last but not the least are the two things around DevOps. I would say containers, which is obviously that's very related to DevOps, though it doesn't have to be that way. You build your modern applications using containers, using microservices, and DevOps is really the best practices for you to build your applications quickly. And so pipeline as code, how do you incorporate continuous delivery, not just for the applications, but also for the infrastructure? And how can you deploy container services? Those are all aspects of programmable provisioning. And last but not the least is this notion of application operations. Now you have the whole stack. You have your own nice application sitting on the stack. How can you monitor the metrics? How can you do distributed tracing? How can you monitor your application logs and really give you the holistic view of your application so that you can really optimize your application for your needs? So This is my last slide, but really what it boils down to is, a two very simple set of, I would say, products or capabilities. Anything that is branded vRealized as a licensed software is our on-premises offering. And our offering is really, you can think of it as three main products. There is vRealize Automation, along with vRealize Operations and Network Insight. So this will give you a comprehensive set of capabilities that I talked about before. And then on the right-hand side are various SaaS services. So all of these services are cloud-native services, meaning they have been built from the ground up, multi-cloud, as well as something that can be stood up within a cloud environment, within a SaaS environment. They are multi-tenant in that aspect. And you'll see a whole bunch of logos, and that's because they are all different modules. So you can consume as you need any aspect of software as and when you need it, right? So you'll see Cloud Health, which is obviously for multi-cloud. It's the right costing solution. It's also sort of a cloud management platform by itself. You also has Operations SaaS, which is a future thing that we'll be bringing, whatever you have from the VR Ops, an equivalent capability. You have Wavefront, which is really meant for your application monitoring, the top of the stack that I talked about. You have Log Intelligence. You have Network Insight that monitors all your network traffic. And then, and it also generates or gives you recommendations for firewall rules. At the very top are a set of services called Cloud Automation Services. It's not one, but three, potentially even four services, right? So you're talking about the very fundamental service called Cloud Assembly, which deploys everything. It's infrastructure as code. It is about provisioning. It's about lifecycle management of anything, not just infrastructure, but all the way to your applications. Then there is broker, service broker, which is the brokerage plus catalog. So it gives you the storefront. It allows you to set or create policies. And then it will also allow you to do brokerage, which is one of the roadmap items that we have. And then last but not the least is Code Stream, which is our continuous delivery pipeline tool. And it is not just about a continuous delivery pipeline. It has very deep integrations to the whole platform. And it has not just our platform, but it integrates with a lot of open source tooling out there. It is really our way of integrating into the entire ecosystem in a bidirectional manner. So we have customers, for example, who use Jenkins as your main CD tool, but then they call into CodeStream. You can do it the opposite as well. You can have it in any whichever way you want, right? It's got a very rich set of continuous integration kind of adapters with the rest of the open source tooling. Okay, so these are sort of our products. Our customers have a choice of consuming on-premises or consuming in SaaS or both, right? And it really depends on how our customers want to operate.